folks, we're going to begin in just a few moments. I know we had a few of you just join. We have two Slido polls that are open for you. The one that you can see on the screen right now, what % of your course is currently online? We just want to get an idea of who teaches online, who's teaching face-to-face, and who's engaging in a combination of the two. And then the other poll, I'll put that up on the screen, is also open. What subject do you currently teach? And again, if you are teaching but not currently teaching a class, that's fine. Put down the course or the subject that you usually teach. Again, both polls are going to help inform our conversation as we move forward in the session.
While you're filling out your Slido polls, to welcome everybody and to especially welcome you to another one of our coffee chat sessions. This is a new format that we are developing and working on and building up. And so we thank Dr. Michelle Vaughan for joining us today as we move forward in this process, because we truly feel that everyone that we have interacted with, all of the faculty members that we interact with, have some really, really passion and valuable information to share with the rest of the faculty. And so that's what this is all about. And so we welcome each one of you to joining us today.
Excellent. Thank you, Judy. So folks, I'm going to go ahead and keep those two polls open. So again, what subject do you currently teach? And then this one is what % of your course is currently online. We're going to keep those open. We're going to move forward in today's chat, but those will stay open, and we're going to revisit those in just a few moments. But I'd like to just get us moving. I want to welcome you and thank you for taking time to spend with us. Your time is very valuable, and we appreciate you spending it with us today. A little bit about the session, the format that we use. We are fortunate that Daniel is joining us today. Daniel will serve as your personal concierge today. He will communicate with all of you via chat. I'm Dr. Lisa Desruisseaux, the facilitator of the conversation. I'm not going to be doing a lot of the talking today. I'm going to leave that up to our two panelists, Dr. Michelle Vaughan and Dr. Judy Summers, both of whom can speak freely. And we all can share our screen, which we'll be doing in a moment to show you the Slido results. You are the participants, the most important members of this conversation. We want to encourage you via a coffee chat format to chat with us, preferably by allowing us to open the microphone. If you click the hand feature in that right side navigation panel, Daniel will know that you'd like your microphone to be unmuted, and he'll go ahead and do that. And you can actually have a conversation with us live. If not, please use the chat feature at the bottom of the screen on the right. We want to hear from you one way or the other.
And just a quick comment, if you do put something into the chat, please click the down arrow and say to either all attendees or all participants so that we all can see your comments as they come in. Thank
you, Dr. Judy. Alrighty, so our format, and Dr. Judy is talking about our coffee chat format, and it really is designed with intent to engage you folks more. We want to hear from you. We don't want to be doing most of the talking. We want this to be a fluid conversation with equal voice. Your voice is equally important. And we are all mutually responsible for each other's learning. That means that you have just as much to share as we do. And so we welcome that, and we welcome your perspective. We want to hear it so we all can learn. Your experiences are very valuable. And so please take opportunity, use that microphone feature and the chat feature, because we want to hear from you. Real quick, folks, our agenda today, we're going to chat about a couple of things. Again, we're fortunate to have Dr. Michelle Vaughan joining us. She's going to take some time to talk a little bit about the model of motivational development. And we'll then go into neuroscience, the connection between the two. And then Dr. Vaughan is going to share some of her course examples, how she has applied the model of motivational development to what she does to communicate and build relationships with her students. Then, the most important part, really, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your successes, how you have successfully built those relationships with your students. What challenges do you currently have? Maybe together we can talk about them as one community of practice, all about building student relationships. I'm going to now switch us over to the polls because we want to, actually, this is a great way for us to get a sense of who you are, who is joining us today.
And that's what I was going to ask, Lisa, is if you would show the Slido links again, because we have several that have just joined in with us. So
Absolutely. It's right on the screen, folks. You should see it.
yeah.
You see that, Dr. Judy?
Yes, absolutely.
So slido.com, hashtag CELCOP, and look, we have a great variety here. Business, undergrad, graduate, teaching courses, CEL, education courses. Excellent. Fantastic. And I'm going to just go over to the next poll. What percent of your course is online? Looks like we have 100. Some folks have joined in that one. If you haven't joined this one, folks, please do. It's again, hashtag CELCOP at slido.com. We want to hear again what percentage of your course is online. We're going to keep these open, however, so don't feel that you have to you have to just forget about that. We want to hear about your course experiences. Right before I'm going to hand the microphone over to Dr. Vaughan in just a moment. Dr. Vaughan and I created some essential questions that we'd like us all to consider as we're moving forward in the conversation today. Our essential questions, folks, are really meant to guide our thinking. These questions are written because we believe they will speak to everyone. There's no right or wrong answer. But again, they're just a few questions to help us think about our current reality when we're building relationships with students. So the first one, how might we put the relationships with our students at the forefront of our instruction and assessment? And to what extent do our beliefs about building student relationships align with our instructional and assessment practices? And I am now going to turn the microphone over to Dr. Vaughan, who's going to talk to us a little bit about the model of motivational development.
All right. Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Apologize for the squeaky voice. It was all good things. I'm not sick. So I was invited by Lisa, and Judy to talk a little bit about my relationship with students and how that looks in my courses. So I wanted to give a little bit of a background, before we jump into this model, really to explain to everybody how I kind of came across this. And I've been doing some work within the last year or so to really examine my own instructional practice and to figure out what my own core values as an instructor are and if they are coming through in my practice. And I think what that really relates to in kind of layman's terms is that there are some things that I felt like in my practice I did really well or were really important to me. And I had a hunch that they really helped the students learn and that the way in which I kind of conducted my relationship with them was somehow important to their learning. But I didn't really understand why or understand what it was about the relationship or our interaction that really helped to foster that, or how I could even take those principles and then really consciously apply them to both, my face-to-face and my online courses and kind of create an environment that was really conducive to that relationship building. So I'm in the College of Education. And so I called up one of my ed psych friends in who teaches the ed psych courses. And I said, listen, I need to pick your brain because I think that I need some help figuring out why I believe that this works. And I need you to kind of point me in the right direction so I can have some theoretical grounding for what it is that I'm doing. And so she sent me, Dr. Willems, sent me this model of motivational development. She said, I think this is what you're pulling from. And while this looks like a kind of complicated model, the way I look at this really kind of spoke to me because if I look at that center column about self, and that's really what we're going to talk about today, these are the things that I am trying to build in my students through my actions so that they can become then engaged in the course and that their learning environment can be really conducive to achievement. And those things all the way on the left in the context really, for me, speak to when students describe the context of a course. I hear some of these words sometimes. And so this tells me, okay, this is what the students may be feeling in a course. You know, if it's unorganized, or if it is, or if they don't feel a connection, they feel rejected by their professor. But the center column is what I'm trying to build. So that is really what we're going to focus on here. And if we focus on building these concepts of relatedness, competence, and autonomy, and we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into each one of those to talk about what they mean and what they might look like in a course, and we'll show you some course examples. If we concentrate on building those through our relationship with our students, we are essentially setting everybody up for success. And our students will naturally become more engaged in the course and the learning will increase. So this is really, instead of thinking about the essential questions were kind of how to put the student relationship at the forefront, instead of thinking about how do I get this concept into my student's head, and more about how do I make my students feel comfortable enough that they can really learn this concept in a way that's going to be where they'll naturally be successful. It's a shift in thinking about your practice, and it's a shift that benefits the student and you, and then the content naturally flows because of it. So we're going to explore this a little bit more. Do you want to move forward to the next slide, Lisa? Or are there things you want to add on?
No, I think we're good. This is a good time now. Thank you, Michelle, to talk a little bit about the model and neuroscience, because we're very fortunate to work in education today, teaching in higher ed. We have a lot of research that backs up why we do what we do, and neuroscience is one piece of that. And so we can see on the screen when we're connecting those three components that Michelle highlighted: relatedness, competence, and autonomy. We pulled out 4 big ideas from neuroscience that really does answer the why behind what Michelle is saying in the model of motivational development. First of all, we know that we need to be activating or helping students activate their prior knowledge. And so that's all 3 of them: the relatedness, competence, and autonomy. When students can make the connection between that new information that you are presenting in the course and what they already know, that's helping them to relate. That's helping them to, you're opening windows for them to have conversations and seek feedback. There's the competency piece, and of course the autonomy piece. They feel more secure about knowing what they know. They're expanding their memory. And that goes right along with engaging in those authentic tasks. We're constantly connecting for our students. We're providing them with things to do that relate to the field, what they are going to be doing, what they're preparing for. And so that type of work helps them to build an understanding focused on that transfer piece. Again, there are those 3 elements that Michelle is referencing. Feedback, as Michelle will talk about in just a few moments, that is key. We know that when we're providing that timely and relevant feedback, that students are able to assess, yes, I know, I don't know if I know, and I know I don't know. And what can I do about it? So when we have that relationship with the student, when they recognize any of those 3, I know, I don't know, I'm not quite sure, they can reach out to us or peers and have those conversations. And that goes along with the acknowledgement of the progress and achievement. And when we're providing that feedback, and I'm so happy that Michelle has provided us with very specific examples for this key element, when we're providing that feedback about progress and achievement, students can stamp it, they're scaffolding their learning, and they know, I got this, I can do this, I feel really good. And they're able to build on all of their achievements in the course, or they're able to backtrack and then fill in those gaps. Michelle, do you have anything you want to add in regards to neuroscience and these key elements?
No, I think what we're trying to do is kind of, show everybody who's in attendance that there's a lot of support in multiple fields for all of the things that we're going to talk about here. So I think you did a great job.
Absolutely. So now, folks, what we're going to do, we're going to offer Michelle an opportunity to share some specifics about the work that she's currently doing in class, in her online class. And I want you all to know that we have several votes that came in the Slido poll about percentage of online courses. 100%, the 67% of us are teaching currently online. And then we have 17% that are 50% and 17% that are not teaching online. Either way, what Michelle is going to share with you right now is going to be relevant. So I'm going to, Michelle, keep your microphone open. And folks, we're going to open your microphones in just a moment once Michelle shows you a few examples. Michelle?
Yep, I'm ready. Okay, so we're going to talk about competence first. And the way the model of motivational development defines competence is the need to feel effective in interactions with social or physical environments. So for us, we're trying to figure out how we can help students be effective. And so there are some kind of simple things that we can do really ahead of time. And like Lisa said, this is online, face-to-face. The idea is that a lot of these strategies can go back and forth between mediums with some shifts. So one of the things that I think is important is this idea of setting up students for success. And some of that comes around organization. And I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of online faculty members who teach online or who teach a hybrid or face-to-face, and around this idea of organization. And I think it's important for us to think about what the student sees on their side. I think sometimes to our detriment, we become content geeks. We just love our content so much that we think that everybody should know everything and have every resource possible to them so that at a moment's notice, it is just junked in there somewhere for the students. And this can be, 800 additional PowerPoint slides that you might want to give to your students. It can be every article on a topic that you've kind of plugged in there. But think about what that feels like for a student, right? It's like you've opened the closet door and everything has fallen down on top of you. So we have to think about setting the students up for success and organizing and giving them the information that they need when they need it, and in a way that is chunked so that they can understand it. So what I have up on these screens are just two things. One is a Start Here module, which is, kudos to Center for E-Learning because, they definitely developed this and helped to institute it in my courses. But you can see here, it's very well organized so that the students can have kind of quick access to whatever they would need. And you'll see on here, which is added recently in my last course update, is a link to all of the course rubrics in one spot. What a great idea. They don't have to go in and hunt for their rubrics by clicking through all of the assignments. It's great to have them in one spot. Any synchronous sessions I have, they can go right there and get the link instead of maybe waiting for me to email out the link and then it's the day before and I just remember, oh my God, I got to set out the link. All these things are good to have ahead of time. In the smaller clip there on the right, you can see that is actually right from my assignment page in my current online course. You can see here that the assignments are actually, instead of just a gigantic list of assignments, they're grouped by the kind of assignment they are, so that students have one extra level of organization instead of shifting through a list of maybe 25 different opportunities for points when they get to that assignment page. So all of these things are just helping students feel effective, right? That's what the definition of competence is. You want them to feel effective. Okay, here are course announcements. And if you're able to do kind of, one thing, and I hope with every PD, that we do, that you take one or two kind of items that are low-hanging fruit that you can kind of use immediately, and maybe another one or two that you think about and marinate on, for a little bit more. But this is an easy one. Course announcements are a staple for helping students to feel effective. So I just kind of clicked what might be, you know, the first, I'm looking at the dates here, the first 17 days, right, in my course. And you can see in that first 17 days, which is less than 3 weeks, they've gotten, you know, 5 course announcements from me. And a lot of that is on purpose because I'm front loading the organization for them, right? I'm helping them to get comfortable in the course. Now we're only 3 weeks out from the end of the semester now. They don't need course announcements as frequently from me because the train has left the station and they're good. And a lot of my interaction might be one-on-one with them now. But in the beginning, it's a lot of me, you know, giving the information out in a way that's chunked, not in a gigantic, long, you know, thing that they have to get through, but a little bit here. Welcome to the course. Here's some updates. You know, here's, you know, this week's announcement. One of those, the one that says course updates, was an error I found in the course, or something the students had emailed me back and said, hey, this didn't quite match up. And so immediately I adjusted it and sent out an announcement to the course and said, thank you so much for helping me find an error. I fixed it. Here's where you'll see it. And that type of over communication helps students feel effective so that they don't feel lost. Here's an example of one that I sent out, you know, mid-June, just so that you can see what one might look like. I try to keep them to like a paragraph or so, bullets when necessary, links or something that might help them.
Fantastic. And I think it's time we hear from you folks. I put the essential questions back up on the screen. Again, just to give us a reminder of our focus for this chat. So let's hear from you. Do you have questions? Do you have feedback or what Michelle is talking about? Can you make a connection to something that you have experienced? Again, feel free to use that chat, or you can raise the hand. Daniel, can we check on Serena again to see if she has a question? Her hand is raised.
I think she had mentioned that her mic wasn't activated, so
Let's see.
I'm not sure if she has a microphone.
Okay, thank you. Serena, please feel free to use the chat feature because we would love to hear from you. Anyone else? Questions? Dr. Judy, do you have some input? Because I see you talking, but I don't hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was muted. But yeah, Serena, if you like, you can just step down the hall and ask your question right in here too. So whatever works easiest for you. And I was gonna add a comment about keeping the connection, the student connection at the forefront of our thinking. And I'm constantly being reminded of the research on experts and novices and remembering that our perspective on what we are teaching is going to be very different from the student perspective. And we need to try to keep remembering to put ourselves into that student viewpoint, the novice viewpoint.
Yeah, and Michelle, I had to giggle because when you talked about the overloading, I'm so guilty of doing that as well. I almost feel like, and I'm interested in hearing from you folks. I sometimes feel like I only have a very short window with these people, and I want to be able to give them as much information as I possibly can in a very, very short amount of time. And I look back at some of the courses I taught a couple of years ago, and based on what I know now, it's completely overloaded, very overwhelming. And not that I don't think, it's all important, but it's up to me to really think about, the most important pieces and really putting it out there for them so that they can, like you were saying, Michelle, you said marinate, which I like, they can really think about it a little bit and build off of it and make connections, because they really need to be the ones to own the information. It isn't just me providing it. They have to be able to digest that and build.
Mary would like to say something, so I'm going to unmute her.
Thank you.
Said, give them what they need. And this builds on what you just said, Lisa, and what Dr. Judy just said also about understanding they're coming from a different perspective. They're learning these concepts. So we do not want to give them what they don't need until they have the expertise and the ability to transfer. So I love that idea. Always keeping in mind, what is it my students need at this moment where they are, meeting them where they are.
Hmm. And I also think I taught face to face for many, many decades, and I remember thinking that in the very beginning, early on, I'm going to date myself. I'm going to say 1990s. My belief was that I needed to just give them the information and then they need to learn it. And at the time, that's where I was. And it's okay. That's where I was. And, now knowing that their conversation is much more important than anything else, because learning is social, right? We've learned that from John Dewey. Learning is a social experience. And when we're teaching in the online environment, well, we ought not be eliminating that social experience. We need to be clever and think of ways that we can make those connections for the students so that they can continue that social relationship piece. Super important. Anyone else? Final thoughts before we move on to the next section. Michelle has some more examples to share with us.
Let's move on.
I'm going to move right on to Michelle. There you go.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about autonomy, and then I want to be mindful of our time too, Lisa, in case people have a hard stop at 1. So autonomy is that really the need to express, this is the way the model defines it, the need to express one's authentic self and be a source of action. So we often think about autonomy as how to build independence, in a course, and how to have your students maybe not rely on you so much, and that they can express, their own learning in your course. And so the way that I try to do this and to build autonomy is to think about, again, what I'm asking my students to do, maybe do a major assignment, a couple major assignments in a course, and how I can scaffold that so that they don't feel so out of control, and that they feel like they are making progress towards owning the content on their own. Because you really want to, and we say this to teachers all the time, our goal is to work ourselves out of a job, right? To teach so well that they no longer need us. And scaffolding major assignments is a great way to do that. So what I've got up here is using the discussion board in a different way, right? Instead of using the discussion board as a content check, similar as you would do like a reading quiz, use it as a way to move forward your students' thinking about upcoming assignments. So if you've got a major assignment due in 4 weeks, 2 weeks before, instead of having that discussion board be based on reading, have that discussion board, be based on an outline of their thinking for that major assignment. Or, in research, I teach a number of research courses, a couple sample research questions, because this way the whole group can get in there and give creative feedback. I can get into the feedback. I can see where their head is at. And it triggers me to know immediately if I've got a student who is way in left field, that I need to say, hey, let me call you up and let's have a quick phone call, or let me hop on Zoom so that we can talk through this because I feel your hesitancy. So it's kind of building backwards from that to make sure that your students are thinking through that. I also like to use, like I said, the discussion boards as these milestones. So here's an example. We do this is a school reform course I'm teaching this summer. So this is an example to kind of get their thinking for possible topics. And this helps to get them organized way before they have to do the actual assignment. So it's another example of using your discussion board.
Evelyn Fraser had a question to ask Dr. Vaughan. She says they
Sure.
really appreciate your presentation Do you sometimes struggle with accomplishing your course objectives while setting up students for success?
Um, I'm going to answer that the way I think it's asked, and then you let me know if this isn't exactly what you're saying. The course objectives are usually content focused, right? And so if I'm putting the students first, I would say, and this is kind of very rainbows and unicorns, I understand that, but the course objectives are easier to obtain if I'm thinking about all of these aspects of making sure my students can access them. When it's a sole focus on content, sometimes it can be a drain on the students because their anxiety about kind of being in the course goes up. And what we know about student learning is when your anxiety goes up, your brain shuts down and you're unable to really take in the knowledge. So by focusing on how they can access the objectives, and setting the course up in this way to kind of scaffold their learning and build that autonomy and relatedness and competence, the course objectives are easier. Now, Evelyn, you could be asking about like a course that is chock full of objectives, like it moves so fast and you've got so much to do that you feel like every week there's something, there's something, there's something. That is definitely a different kind of issue. And I would say that that is a curriculum design issue, and a way that you could attach that is to take a really good look at what your students need to know and how you can layer in multiple objectives into a couple of assignments instead of having them broken out so the course feels like it's on a crazy pace. So I think those are two different ways that I took that question. If I didn't, let me know, Evelyn, if I didn't hit it right.
She responded in all caps, yes, yes.
Okay, woo! I love the positive feedback, which is a great segue to the next slide. Okay, so relatedness is by far my favorite of the model of motivational development, because the way that it defines relatedness is the need to feel connected to others or to belong to a social group. And for me, and that is a core value of mine as an instructor, is connection. So whether that is with my peers, in my department, or whether that is, teaching, it's a core value for me. So I find myself focusing a lot on this. And I think maybe you will find yourself drawn to one or two of these concepts that we've talked today more than others. And that's a great place to start. But in order for my students to feel connected to me, I really spend a lot of time on feedback. And I saw on the Slido that we've got a couple people here from business communications. So I did talk to some of them in that department about feedback. So, they're hearing this twice from me now, but hopefully they'll see some course examples and they'll like it. So dialogue within feedback is something that is really powerful. And it's something you really have to kind of not only train yourself to do, but train your students to do as well. I give, when I grade assignments, especially I graded a lot of written assignments, I absolutely do kind of some of the annotated comments in there, but I always make sure that after I grade on the rubric too, I'm putting something in there. And what is in there is able to be responded to. And I tell students, like, click that respond button, get back to me, see if there's something that you need. And if they get back to me, I absolutely get back to them so that they are getting reinforced, in that dialogue. So you can see here that I gave some dialogue to a student here, and she said back to me, thanks, Dr. Vaughan. I think I definitely need more practice with response papers. I wasn't as confident with this assignment as previous ones. That's a great sharing moment. I mean, she took a moment to share some vulnerability here with me through our dialogue on an assignment. And that maybe wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had kind of initiated that conversation. And, my job is then to say, listen, you're going to grow into this. That's why you're here. Trust the journey. I've got your back. Like, it's okay. We are connected and I'm not going to let you fail. And that is my goal in the connection, is for them to know that I am here for them. Let's move to the next one. So another way that students can feel connected is through video feedback. I am not going to play that video, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like on their end. That's me sitting in my house, just, looking at discussion boards and papers. Video feedback is I have found that students, it's really powerful. It's not always feasible for every assignment. It has its place. I like to give video feedback actually when I read discussion boards, because my thoughts are, it doesn't take, I don't have to analyze as much of the content. I'm just thinking about what they said. So it's easy for me to hit the video button and give them 2 minutes of, hey, I heard what you said, and you know, this is what I'm thinking, and that was really cool that you made that connection. I like how you responded to that person, like, keep up the good work, like, thanks for being responsible on the discussion board, whatever. So here's an example of, you know, one of my students thought that I had a shot at a YouTube celebrity, which would certainly make me significantly cooler with my children than I am now. But I highly encourage you to try this. It does require, I mean, maybe it doesn't, it does require me to be like dressed and look okay from the waist up, which may not be how I normally grade papers, but it's, my students have commented on this video feedback more than almost any other of the strategies that I've tried. So I would encourage you to try it, even if it's just on a discussion board.
Excellent, thank you. And so, Michelle, if you could just real quick recap those 3 pieces for us, and then we'll open up the microphones.
I can. So we talked about relatedness, which was that need to feel connected to others. And some of the strategies that we shared were, for me, I really use feedback as well. And I also encourage them to give good feedback to each other, because I think you could also be connected, not just, you know, horizontally and vertically, you know, so horizontally with each other, vertically maybe with me, so that they can feel that connection that way as well. We talked about competence, which is the need to feel effective, and how we can think about organizing our course that way, and breaking down and not over kind of burdening our students, you know, with content until maybe they're ready. And then we talked about autonomy, which is that need to express one's authentic self and build independence in the course. And we talked a lot about some scaffolding of some major assignments there. So ideally, if you hit on all 3, your students are more engaged in the course, and I find that to be 100% true. And then they have a natural, there's a natural more enjoyment to the work, which increases the learning and the achievement.
Thank you, Michelle. So, folks, we're going to open the microphones up once again, and again, we really value your experience, and we really would love to hear from you. While we are having a conversation I'm losing my voice now, and I did not want to.
I'm sorry. Contagious via WebEx.
Yes, yeah. So we have the last Slido for our session today with Dr. Vaughan. What has worked for you when building student relationships? Again, that's slido.com, event code #CELCOP. We would love to hear from you using this poll. And of course, Dr. Judy does a wonderful job making sure that at the end of the sessions, the PowerPoint presentation along with the Slido results do go out to you folks. And that being said, again, the poll is open. Let's open the microphones up once again. We have our essential questions back on the screen again to give us a framework for the conversation. Anyone have any comments, questions for Dr. Vaughan, feedback, ideas you'd like to share? Feel free to use the chat or let Daniel know he can go ahead and open up your mic.
Just a couple of feedback comments. Serena Horman says thank you, that she enjoyed the information. Evelyn Hall also says, love your comments and tips regarding dialogue. It helps to avoid communication breakdown.
Thank you, Evelyn and Serena, for that. Anyone else, folks? We have a couple more minutes.
Looks like Jenny Bloom has her hand raised, so I'll go ahead and unmute her.
Fantastic. Thank you, Daniel.
Hi, this is Jenny Bloom. Michelle, great job. I just wanted to comment on a few things that were take-homes for me. Number one, I really enjoyed this essential questions way to frame instead of learning outcomes per se. I just was reading Hal Gregerson's book that questions are the answer, and have been doing a lot around questions. So I loved seeing that. And then, Michelle, you've inspired me to try the video feedback. I haven't done that before, but I have an internship class this summer, and I'm gonna try that. And I liked your use of the course announcements feature. That is something that I probably have underutilized, and so I tend to send things out as direct kind of email kinds of things to folks. So I'm using the course announcements, and I'm not familiar with this model of motivational development. And who came up with that model?
So it's Fuhrer, Skinner, and Pitzer. And I think, yeah, you got the references up there too.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and
Jenny, if you would share once again the resource that you mentioned.
Yes, it's Hal Gregerson's new book. It's called Questions Are the Answer. And it, for example, instead of having mission statements, he was talking about how some companies are going to mission questions because it gets you more involved. It makes you think, and it's not dictating for you what you're supposed to do. And that's what I liked about your use of the word essential questions. And I guess that was my other question is, where did that come from? Is that from
yeah, so that's the second reference there.
Okay.
Which is the understanding by design model is essential questions, as well as probably some other curriculum design models, but that's where it really lives.
Great.
Yeah, it's Wiggins and McTighe, the whole understanding by design focus on essential questions.
I think, Judy, we can send out, this is one of my favorite go-tos, right?
Yes.
Wiggins and McTighe, they wrote an entire book, as you can see, on essential questions. It is an absolutely wonderful resource. So we'll go ahead and send that out as well.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yes.
And I will add Jenny's link in with the response information as well.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny.
Well, we
Thank
have
you,
a few minutes left. Do we have any final questions before we end for the day? Daniel, are we all set, or does someone else have something to add?
Just a couple last comments here. Serena Orman says, once again, in terms of information overload, she thinks that she will connect the content to the uses of the content.
Great.
Armil Suryaga says that she appreciates all the practical tips in building student relationships. She likes the autonomy part. And if you can share with us other books that you use about neuroscience of teaching, that would be great.
Fantastic. We definitely have
Okay,
those.
sure, we can do that. We've got a bunch of them that we've used in the past. So yeah, definitely. We'll make sure to add that. Help me remember, Lisa.
I certainly will. And so we are going to close the session for today. We want to thank you again for taking your time to spend with us. We do appreciate it. It keeps us going here. We have a couple of coming attractions that we want to tell you about. July 22nd, we're going to be talking about badging. And then July 29th, we have another coffee chat with Dr. Corey Sorge from the Department of Physics. He's going to chat with us about his effective grading practices in the online classroom. And again, it's going to be another success analysis. And he has been working to put some wonderful examples together as well. So, Dr. Judy, is there anything else? Did I forget anything?
I think we've got it covered. And again, Michelle, Dr. Vaughan, thank you so much for sharing with us and being willing to open yourself up and to share with us and let us know. Thank you.
My pleasure. Everybody go email a student today. Tell them you're thinking about them.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Michelle.
Anytime.
And Dr. Judy, we'll get that information out to folks this afternoon. Thank you, everybody.
Yes.
Enjoy the
Yep,
rest
definitely.
of your day.
Thank you.